What's the moment that made you fall in love with something? It could have been the moment in which you saw a player do something that seemed inhuman, something that seems to defy the laws of our world. Maybe you fall in love with a team thanks to what they did, surpassing possible odds to become champions, or even break a curse that has lasted for more than a century. Or maybe it was a song that resonated with you so much that you decided to support the artist that created it, without caring about other people's opinions. Maybe none of them will reach the level of the all-time greats. They will never get their recognition, their popularity, nor will they be talked about in generations to come. But they had the opportunity to leave a mark within the group of people that watched their stories. When I started watching Uma Musume, I had little to no expectations of the story. I personally only wanted to watch the fun horse girls doing fun stuff and racing. It was a cool concept, and I was not expecting much more than that. And in the first season, that was the case. It had some interesting moments, I'm not gonna lie. But honestly, the first season just felt like something that any other anime could have possibly accomplished. It was kinda normal. And in reality, I didn't have that high expectations for anything related to the main series. I was just watching it to reach the movie and the more recent adaptation of the Oguri Cap spin-off. So I just coasted through the first season, and I kinda expected a similar level in the second one. I knew before watching it that it had a higher rating, a way higher one than the first season in my anime list. But I just thought that it was going to be the typical second season has higher rating than the first one because the people that were not fans were filtered out in the first season and now they are here. I was expecting something similar to that, and I had little to no extra expectations. I knew that it was supposed to be better, obviously a better animation, very likely to have a better story, and almost impossible to have a worse protagonist, even though Special Week is not a bad one. But in the middle of watching the second season, I realized what was all about. Uma Musume was actually not a story of just fun horses. It was not a story in which they took the real life horses and they decided to make an IP with them. Uma Musume is a love letter to Japanese horse racing. And all of that actually started with the second season. If you watched the previous video of the series, which it's very likely that you watched it, you know that I talked in a really mixed way about the first season. It had some really good things going on for it, but there was a lot of mediocrity in between. And one of the main reasons as to why I said that the first season was worth watching was actually because it was worth to watch the other seasons of the main story as well. And all of that actually started with second season. The main focus of the second season is in the career of Tokai Teiyo, a horse that seemed to be destined to greatness, even if Destiny itself seemed to hate her. Ever since the first season, we actually knew about Tokai Teiyo, how she joined the Spica team and she would become a teammate with Special Week and the other girls. We also knew since the ending of the first season that she was on her way to winning the Triple Crown of horse racing, a list that is so exclusive that only has 8 total members as it is today. However, this season takes a 180-degree turn in the way that the events are told. The first season was, for the most part, just a normal story about Special Week becoming the best horse in all of Japan. Tokai Teiyo's story is very different. You know, the focus of the second season is not just the typical try to be better than others in order to succeed. The second season actually touches a very deep theme within the sports world, which is injuries.
Expecting impact, and he got.
Oh, look out! A shot right back at Cobb.
Entró, llega Ansu Fati, cae al suelo. Penalti. Traba por detrás el tobillo izquierdo de Ansu.
The story of real-life Tokai Teiyo is the story of an all-time great horse whose career was severely derailed by injuries, and they totally represent it in Uma Musume. Now, I will not spoil anything, because that would totally ruin the experience for anyone that has not seen the story and actually wants to watch it. But I'm gonna tell you, Tokai Teijo struggles a lot with injuries. In the first season, they kinda show how hard the injuries can be for a horse, in the case of both Silent Suzuka and Grass Wonder, both of which are horses that, in the main story, had to struggle for months before being able to ever come back from those injuries. And that is also what happens with Teijo. Since really early on, she starts struggling. This season shows how cruel the destiny could be and how a single injury can eliminate a promising career, and how certain athletes have to live through that, and all of that under the eyes of Tokai Teijo. In this season, Tokai Teijo represents that athlete that had to live knowing that they couldn't reach their full potential, and the psychological consequences on it. Because yeah, this season, more than being about races, is all about the psychology behind it. In this season, there's actually three main protagonists: the already mentioned Tokai Teijo, Major McQueen, and Rice Shower, all of which representing an individual struggle that an athlete could have. I'm gonna start with the later one. Rice Shower is the one that suffers the least out of all of this. However, her struggles should not be underestimated. She represents that athlete that is hated by everyone. She represents that athlete that is constantly being harassed and even at times receives death threats. Of course, they don't show it outright and they do not actually say anything remotely close to that, but that is the way that it's represented. Rice Shower in real life was a horse that was known as the Black Assassin, mainly because she was the record breaker, or rather, the breaker of record breakers. In real life, Rice Shower prevented that multiple different horses became all-time greats, because of her precisely timed wins. And because she won these specific races, she became the most hated horse in all of Japan. As I'm saying, at the end of the day, because this is not an adult show, they didn't showcase anything that was remotely close to harassment for her, but the reaction that she had from the fans on the show and how she reacted to it is a clear representation of the depression that certain athletes suffer. A depression that sadly has taken out multiple with them. Throughout a good chunk of the season, we actually see Rice Shower suffering, not because of anything bad, but because of her inner demons, something that can be even more problematic than the worst of the injuries. Because you can recover for certain things, but how can you recover from something that is inside of your brain? We saw her struggle constantly with the undecisiveness of actually wanting to race but being scared of being rejected once again, and how she was mentally affected constantly, to the point that she didn't even wanted to do the things that she loved. Something that people that has suffered from depression should know how it feels. And they show in a very respectful way in this show. Granted, they cannot show it throughout a long season, but the episodes in which she is the protagonist are good enough for you to understand and empathize with what she is feeling. But the main reason as to why this season hits so hard is of the message of never giving up. In the first season, that is the message. Yes, but it's not the same message, if you know what I mean. It is not the same to say, overcome your limits because you are yet to reach your highest level, than to say, overcome your limits and try to go back to what you used to be. Tokai Teijo is easily the most optimistic protagonist in the entire show, which is a lot to say, especially considering that the first season is in the special week's point of view. Tokai Teijo is the most optimistic protagonist by a landslide, and they show you how even the most optimistic people can become miserable if they are not able to do what they want. You can truly feel the struggle of a character that wants to be great and just cannot. We see her constantly failing, and a lot of other characters constantly surpassing her, while she cannot do anything about it. Not because she is not good enough, but because her body is falling apart. She actually shows something really strong in one point of the season. She actually gives up, something that you usually do not see in this type of stories. The character just straight up stopped caring about what could have happened. She just didn't care anymore. The great story of a horse that was well on track to become one of the greatest of all time just stopped caring, period. All of her wins, all of her races, everything of what she knew and learned about horse racing didn't matter. She actually gave up. And when you actually watch it, it feels real. You can see the pain in the eyes of the character. A character that is not crying out of sadness, is not crying out of frustration, is crying out of realization that she is no longer the horse that she wants. And the whole season turns around even further, with her just wanting to stop horse racing at all. She just accepting her retirement, not because she couldn't give anymore, but because she was scared to suffer another injury once again. And at one point you feel like that is what is gonna happen. That is just the harsh reality that so many athletes have suffered throughout the years. Just not being good enough anymore. And for something that you could not control. And then that scene happens. Do you remember how at the start of the video I asked you when you fell in love with something? Well, this scene is the reason as to why I fell in love with Uma Musume. There is one character that is constantly shown in this season. It is a secondary character, and I'm not gonna explicitly say which character it is, just because I don't want to spoil anything, as I already established. But this character is mostly just a joke of a character. It is never taken seriously, to a point that not even as a racehorse she is actually that respected. This character is constantly being shown wanting to become the rival of Tokai Teijo, even if she doesn't have the talent to do something like that. And it shows also what it feels to have an idol, a person which you look up to, in this case Tokai Teijo. As I said, this character is constantly being seen as a joke, but her dreams are as real as anyone else's, and she will fight for them even if her life depends on it. One of her main dreams is actually being in a race with Tokai Teijo. The problem is that she learns that Tokai Teijo is retiring and that she's not gonna race anymore, and she wants to actually convince her to go back. She tries so hard that it makes something that it was never seen in the season so far and was never seen afterwards, which is Tokai Teijo being actually rude with someone, showcasing how far she had fallen from what she used to be. She said that she would never be able to win a race because she was not talented enough. And that girl that could have been crushed because her idol told her that she was not good enough didn't crumble. She actually showed Tokai Teijo what she was made of. The scene of the twin turbo race is one of the most impactful scenes that I have ever seen in my life. And as someone that has seen well over 100 animes, that should tell you everything you need to know about it. That scene is so meaningful and so impactful that even after a month, I keep crying every time that I see it. It's one of the most emotional scenes that I have ever seen in a show. And as I said, that is a lot, especially for someone that has barely ever cried watching anything. This scene made me realize what this show is all about. It's not about horses. It's not about horse racing. It's not even about sports. It is about achieving your dreams. The path is gonna be rude. It's gonna be cruel. It's gonna be rocky. It's gonna be hard. But at the end of the day, the one stopping you from achieving your dreams is only yourself. And this scene actually showcases that. This scene is not only impactful, this scene is easily the most impactful scene in the entire season. But not only that, but as I already established, it is the most impactful scene in the entirety of the franchise. This scene is also the reason as to why Tokai Teijo decides to go one last time. After suffering so much, having a mental breakdown, she decided to give it one last chance. It was an impossible win, but she wanted to give it one last chance. One last time to prove that she loved horse racing, and that she stopped racing not because she doesn't love it anymore, but because she couldn't anymore, and she went all in. And the last chapter of the season is watching that race. And yeah, it also gets emotional. Knowing that she is racing for one last time and everyone around her, all of which were not only competitors, but also friends or people that admire her, but they were gonna be all in. Because in a race, you're competing with others, but you are competing with yourself as well. And no matter what, you have to keep moving forward. And they show the proper respect by all of them going all in against this former legend that she was not anymore. They decide to go all in, and she goes all in as well. And the ending of that season is once again one of the reasons as to why you should watch Uma Musume. Because this is not only a fun anime about horse girls doing fun stuff. This is an anime about achieving your dreams, about overcoming all of your obstacles, both in the outside and in the inside. Uma Musume is a love letter to horse racing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you want more content like this, please leave a like, comment and subscribe. And see you next time. Bye bye.